let me just first thank Social Enterprise West Midlands for inviting us and enabling us to support the event today. A little bit about my background before I talk about Key Fund. I'm not a banker. I don't do finance. I'm a social entrepreneur. My background was actually in terms of fundraising. I spent 12 years in local government trying to grab the money, trying to raise the money. I was a lottery officer for a time in one of my hometowns, Doncaster. And then I went into social enterprise. So I spent the last 15 years setting up, growing, rescuing, in some cases, social enterprises, both using grants and social investment as a means to develop, grow and sustain them. So I hope that gives me some perspective in terms of the social investment market, as I was very fortunate and privileged to join Key Fund as the Chief Exec last November. So it's almost my year's birthday. If I talk a little bit about Key Fund and who we are. Firstly, we're a social enterprise. We were set up in direct response to a need, but also an opportunity within the third sector in our hometown, our home area of South Yorkshire. And what was happening, and this was sort of 12, 14 years ago, is that South Yorkshire was designated as an Objective 1 area, which basically meant it got lots of European money thrown at it. And the third sector within South Yorkshire, of which I was a member of, I ran a development trust in my hometown, Barnsley, where my mum taught for 23 years, right next door at the primary school. The third sector was actually determined to say, how do we get our hands on this European money in a way that services the needs of our customers and our clients and our beneficiaries, but actually takes away some of the bureaucratic and administrative nightmares that can exist in terms of managing European money. Just a straw poll, how many people have been involved in running a contract or a project with European funding? How many would say it's easy? Wow, everybody went down. Well, that's where Key Fund came in, because we were set up specifically to actually look at how European money could get down to the grassroots organisations within the third sector in the South Yorkshire coalfields. And we did that by actually trying to take the money at a programme level, so a big chunk of it, and then remove some of that administrative nightmare, and actually in order to channel money to the third sector. And we did that initially by providing grants, development grants, community capacity building, business support, enterprise support to third sector organisations. We then moved into the social investment sort of market, where we then provided grants and then grant loan mixes, that blended kind of finance, and now we provide loan finance. And the loan finance is interesting to us because actually that's providing our sustainability in terms of business model. In that if we get the money back, we then reinvest it back into the sector and it helps build our own organisation. So we started off from South Yorkshire, based in Sheffield, and now we operate across the north of England, and I'm really pleased that today we can announce our formal sort of introduction to the West Midlands by creating a social impact fund of £1 million, working with other providers across the West Midlands. We've been a social enterprise since 1998, and as I said, all the returns that we get from our loans are reinvested back into the sector. So what do we offer? You've heard of lots of figures and lots of sort of details taken about from different social investors today, and you're going to hear a lot more. In essence, the money is important, but it's actually the approach. We talked about today, and lots of speakers have talked about that kind of ladder of profession, or the staircase of profession. Well, we do the first step on that ladder, and we do the kind of finance which actually is pre-step. So we recognise that actually, if you want to have a growing third sector, a community enterprise sector that's having different models of income streams, whether it be grant loan mix or pure loan finance, there needs to be that patient sort of approach, and there needs to be a staircase of provision, and that's what we offer. So although we offer £3,500 to £300,000 in terms of deals, we generally focus our average investment around the 20 to 40,000 mark. So we provide fixed interest rates. We're not the cheapest. Our interest rates generally are 6.5% flat. What that means is that you're paying about 12.5%, 13% APR. And the problem that we have personally about that is that we'd like to offer cheaper rates, is that we're subject to state aid. So we get public money, we get private money, we get commercial money, and then we invest it out into the sector. But because of state aid, we can't actually seem to be distorting the mainstream banks in lending to this sector, which is quite strange for us because we don't see many mainstream banks lending into our sector anyway. But that's a European issue for us. Our average turnaround time for decisions following full application is 3 weeks. So we provide flexible finance, but we also provide fast decisions because we don't like to keep our clients hanging on. We think it's actually only fair to them that if we have an honest conversation with them, if we think they're investment ready, we'll be able to give them a decision quickly. But if we think that they're not investment ready and they're not viable, we'll have that conversation very, very quickly with them. What we do see is our role as then acting as a referral agency for investment readiness programs like Big Potential, like Investment Contract Readiness Fund, who we are involved in terms of the panel. So we help to sort of try to refer them to providers and to those programs to get them investment ready. We also run 2 of the social incubator programs that the Minister mentioned earlier. The first one, the Social Incubator North, we run with social enterprise partnerships, and again today I'm really pleased that we've been able to negotiate involving the West Midlands within that first programme, Social Incubator North, and we have just launched our second Social Incubator programme, which is focusing specifically on the digital economy and technology-based social enterprises. Quite excited about that because that's not only working with an existing group of technology mentors and angel investors, but actually it's also allowing us to explore moving from debt to equity finance investments as long as we get that's levered in by additional private investors. So we're very pleased that we've been able to be involved in both of those 2 incubators because we actually feel that support, that business support, that advice alongside the money is extremely important for early stage enterprises and growing enterprises to enable them to realise their particular sort of ideas and plans. Just to give you kind of some of the figures, because we started in South Yorkshire, we now invest across the north of England. I want to dispel the myth that we're just a Yorkshire and Humberside based social investor. That's not the case. At the moment we invest about 5 million outside of Yorkshire and the Humber, but actually it's fair to say that actually our major contract, our single major contract, which is a European Regional Development Fund contract, which is 38 million, is based within Yorkshire and the Humber. To date, we've invested over £30 million in the sector and supported over 2,200 organisations. And those are the kind of headline figures in terms of the kind of organisations that we help start up and create and safeguard the jobs. We very much see ourselves as the first step on that ladder to social investment. Yes, we will do secured investment, and for larger deals we prefer to syndicate, to do that jointly with other investors. Some are within the room today, but where we see our roots and our key capacity is in enabling organisations to take and to go along that investment readiness journey and take on that first leap into social investment. Just to give you an idea and a bit of a flavour of the kind of investments that we make. 22 different sectors that we actually invest in. And these are just some of the examples. So everything from your self-build housing developer, specialist sports coaching organisations. We've done, I think, 4 community-owned wind farms, both pre-planning application and post. We've developed quite a large investment portfolio with a social care home franchise across the north of England. We've done a number of dance academies, so a lot of work within the creative and digital industries. Childcare providers, nurseries, early years, creches are some of our largest in terms of numbers of investments. We've recently supported a therapeutic training academy where actually individual comics use comedy and to actually help support people with mental health issues. We've done a number of hydroelectric power generation plants, and we've actually working with a number of quite exciting health practitioners to develop different software and hardware platforms around virtual human body modelling and first responder devices. We've recently invested in an organisation that's actually looking at developing a pistonless petrol engine that is looking to expand that internationally. And we also have invested in organisations that work with people with special needs and learning difficulties to produce circuit boards within Boltons. So we're fairly diverse in the range and the type of investments. So the bit that you probably want to hear most about is today I'm really pleased that we're launching our £1 million social impact fund for the West Midlands. We're using that as part of our own resources. So I mentioned that the money that we get that returns to us, we reinvest that back into the sector. This is what this £1 million is. It's actually our own capital that we're investing back into the sector, but actually using it to invest in an area which we feel there's actually a demand based on the conversations that we've had with local partners. So we don't see this as a competition. We see this as very much as part of that staircase of provision. And I'm really pleased to see some of the CDFIs and some of the organisations and the other social investors that we're working with to actually make this programme successful. And we very much see that working with local agencies, because that's our approach. We very much work on working with local agencies to develop that local relationship-based approach to social investment. We want to bring the Social Incubator North programme to the West Midlands. It's coming towards the final phases, and we're trying to tell government that actually this is really important type of product and a really important need for supporting particularly early stage startups, and this is something that you should think about going forward. As I said, we want to complement the existing activity, but also add our weight as an advocate alongside the sector with others to actually be a voice to government and to other big investors, national investors, to actually inform their policy making decisions and how they actually distribute and support the sector from a national level. And hopefully that we can lever the £1 million with other funding opportunities that we see coming down the stream. That's me. That's just some figures of our last year in terms of numbers of what we did in the last 12 months to give you an indication of where we sit within that market. As I said, our average loan size, because of the incubator programme particularly, was around £20,000. So hopefully we can bring a product and an offer and an approach that you guys actually feel is something that's needed for the West Midlands and hopefully take advantage of. Thanks very much.